So I wanted to talk today about how the Marx Brothers got their nicknames, because of course, based on a biography project, even though we might not have gotten to it by the time we do this, both parts, they weren't born with these names. So how did they get them? So these nicknames were developed by a man, well, not necessarily developed, but given to them, supposedly by a man by the name of Art Fisher. There was a poker game. They were playing in Illinois, and he made these designations based upon certain characteristics. So let's start with who they are, right? So Groucho's our first one. So Groucho. So how did he get that name? Well, that's Julian. Now Groucho was Julius, and this is the most disputed of all of them. There's a couple variations of how Groucho became Groucho. The first one was that it was a very common way to give nicknames to people at the time. There was a very popular was Bongo, Jingo, Ringo, Typo, Cheerio in in comics or in newsprint. You had those coming around, so of course it would be natural to call him Groucho. However, that might not necessarily be true. Another rumor was that it was based upon his temperament. Groucho is simply the most grouchiest of all of them. He's always grouchy all the time. But not if you ask Groucho. Groucho would say that that's not what it is. That he's never always grouchy all the time. But he did admit later in life that he tended to be a moody one. So maybe that's why his name was Groucho. The other one was based upon economic style. Groucho is another term, or a grouch is another term for someone who was cheap, who didn't like spending money, who was always looking to save a buck. And Julius was known as the penny pincher of the family. He didn't go out and spend a lot of money on lots of things, so he was very much of a grouch in the sense that he didn't spend a lot of money. Now there's even a fourth one, and that was based upon what he actually carried with him, which was called a grouchy bag. A grouch bag, which was a drawstring bag that you carry valuables with on you so that it wouldn't necessarily be stolen. You could keep it with you all the time. Now, any of these four things could be it, but he is, of course, known as Groucho. Not because he was stingy, if you asked him. It wasn't because he was stingy. It was just either because of his temperament or maybe the bag he drug around him. He also said, "My name, of course, I never did understand." He goes on to mention that his uncle Julius actually might have given it to him. That his uncle Julius lived with his family. The family believed that he was a rich uncle hiding a fortune, and Groucho claimed that he might have been named after him by the family, trying to get into this uncle's will. Finally, the uncle dies, and he left us his will. And in that will, he left us 3 razor blades, an 8-ball, and he owed my father $85 beside. Groucho you can never take seriously. So it's probably either the bag he carried or maybe his temperament is how he was named. Now an easier one would be, of course, to know Harpo. Harpo is going to be the silent one. Now Harpo was very good at playing instruments. He played 6 different instruments, the harp being one of them. And so therefore it would make natural sense that his nickname would be Harpo Marx, because he played the harp, and in a lot of films he does play the harp. He's also the silent one. So I guess maybe that's a play on harp makes music, Harpo is silent. Chico, which could be pronounced called Chico, is basically what it sort of implies. Back in the day we referred to ladies as chicks, and he was a ladies' man, so therefore he was a chicken chaser, or for chicks, otherwise known as a Chico, and that's how it should be pronounced. It looks like Chico, but it should be pronounced Chico because he was the ladies' man. He does adopt a fake Italian persona. He's not Italian, but he adopts that kind of persona in most of his films. Next one is Zeppo. It's Herbert's name. Herbert is going to be called named Zeppo. Now, also a little bit of controversy. If you Harpo would write a memoir later, and he said that they named him after a chimpanzee that they saw in another act, whose name was Zippo. So they started calling him, because he was the younger brother, Zippo, and Zeppo didn't like that. Herbert said, no way, I'm not going to do that. Put his foot down and said, I'm not going to go by that name. So they came up with a compromise and called him Zeppo instead of Zippo after the chimp. Now, Chico's explanation is not that. He said to his daughter that it was just based upon one of the popular comics at the time, which was called Zeke and Zeb, and it was a natural variation of Zeb or Zeppo because he would call Herbert Zeb, and Herbert always called him Zeke as like a play when they were messing around. So, of course, naturally it would be called Zeppo. Don't know if that's true or not either, because unfortunately they're all dead, right? Now, Mom, Maxine, always went by their real names. And in the beginning, it went on their playbills when they did Broadway or vaudeville. They were just known as their real names because Maxine was their manager. And it wasn't until later in their career, when they started making transition to movies, that they were missing out on this gold mine of being called by their stage names. And so that's when it finally switched over to the Marx Brothers, Harpo, Zeppo, Chico, and Groucho. Okay, that's probably all I'm going to talk about here. You're going to watch some. You're going to watch some shorts for these things. And sorry about the delays in this. I guess I probably should have ended this. All right, we'll see you later.